All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us on this Facebook Live and another impromptu Facebook Live that Jason and I are doing this morning or close to being this afternoon. So what we're going to talk about today actually is spawned from a conversation that Jason and I had earlier this week. I took the boys to see How to Train Your Dragon 3 this weekend, which was phenomenal. I just have to say that. One of the most, in all sincerity, one of the most pro-marriage, pro-family movies that I've seen in a long time. The movie centers around the relationship between Hiccup and Toothless. And just really as they've grown over the movies, you've seen them become from boys to men. And the reality of growing up and the choices that one has to make to let go and loss, all of that it plays into the film. So I thought the movie was excellent.
So Mario comes up to me and says, "Did you see the movie?" And I'm quickly to be going to the point. Well, I don't like dragons. Dragons, you kill dragons. You don't pet them. You don't train them. You don't talk to them. You don't fly around. Maybe what was it?
Pete's Dragon? You don't like Pete's Dragon?
No, not Pete's Dragon. That's a bad one. Also, with the one.
What's wrong with Pete's Dragon?
Well, it's they're dragons. So that's
he's cute. And
well, so the thing that I wish we could recover in film is we're blurring the lines.
Yeah. So that is the theme then that we want to talk about. Okay. So I'm aware of Michael O'Brien, popular Catholic author who has spoken about this, and I know even one of my muses of late is Jordan Peterson. He's spoken a lot about making sure just that in films that the distinctions are made and that there are certain archetypes that have existed throughout the history of humanity. The devil was a serpent in the garden for a reason.
Right.
Snakes have always been the
plaguing the human race.
That's exactly right. So we've always
years.
been afraid and always associated snakes and dragons with what is evil.
Right.
So I understand that.
Yeah.
And I understand the need for making these literary agents, so to speak, clear and distinct. But the reality, unfortunately, is that we, in a postmodern age, and I think this is part of the problem, but we're just going to sift into this, is that in a postmodern age, what is good and what is evil aren't just clear anymore.
Right.
And so everything's been obliterated.
Right, so that you don't know if the hero is the real hero or the villain's going to be the hero or is the villain. And I think it also ties into the whole thing of like what is good and what is bad. We what is good is bad now, and what is bad is good now.
Right.
And I think so as we have lost our understanding of what that good and bad, that line is, we're blurring also the line of like, what does it mean to be a real hero?
Yeah.
And so you can still be a villain, but still come out and do some good things, and then people celebrate that.
Right. Or the opposite. So there's the sense of like the anti-hero has become popular. So another movie I saw this week was Venom. Finally got around to seeing that.
So I made a mistake and I kind of shared that a little too soon with my son. Although I didn't show him the dragon movie, I did show him the one where the guy eats the heads of the people off.
So cute dragons off the table at the Angelette house.
But it was a marvel. It was a Marvel movie.
Symbiotes that eat people.
I know.
Table.
Again, look, we all make mistakes. I made mine, and I learned my lesson. And afterwards, Jude was like, "How was it?" So he knew too that we crossed the line. I was like, "Okay, that probably wasn't the best wholesome family movie of all time," and the message was really blurry. But the point though is that again, even in these hero movies where like you even have like a movie like Deadpool, which I didn't show him that. I haven't even seen Deadpool yet, but there's a blurring of the lines in that too as well. It's like the anti-hero,
right?
And so is with Venom, this kind of anti-hero, and so doing some good, but all the while allowing
a lot
evil,
of bad,
allowing a lot of bad to happen.
Like it's okay to eat the guy's head as long as it's the bad guy.
Right, exactly. It's like, okay, come on. But then that's the point. Is that
is that the way it works?
What's the point? Right. What's the point of movies in general? What's the point of a story?
Good question.
And so, yes, entertainment is great and all that. And some people like that's the problem with like a lot of songs. People say, oh, it's got a great beat. I'm like, did you hear the words? Like it's saying a lot of things that we shouldn't be advocating and singing and mouthing and trying to catch so again what does it mean to have good art, to appreciate good art? What does good art look like, especially in the form of like music and movies? And when you start blurring these lines, how much do we tolerate?
Yeah, that's the hard question.
Yeah,
I know. I mean, so let's just throw other movies into the category right now, since we're talking about lines that get blurred. Monsters Incorporated, Wreck-It Ralph.
There was
Pete's
that line
Dragon,
in Wreck-It Ralph where it's like in the first one he says it's good to he says I'm bad,
but that's good.
But that's good.
I know. But I like Wreck-It Ralph.
It's a great movie.
The hard part with it is I understand. I get this is where I'm stuck. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I understand the need for having these very clear-cut literary agents and the bad guy wears the black hat, the good guy wears the good hat, the white hat. But at the end of the movie, so like Wreck-It Ralph, we're going to talk about
Which
that.
one, first or second?
Haven't seen the second one yet.
Spoiler alert.
Haven't seen the second one yet, so we're not going to talk about that. But the first one, he is the hero.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole point of the movie, is that he's sick of being the bad guy,
Yeah.
and he wants to be the hero so that he can prove people that he can be the hero.
Yeah.
And that's the whole purpose. It's the transition for him to be the hero.
That's right.
And so he does. He does become the hero at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that?
I'm good with that. Again, but it's just that the whole point of like the whole I'm bad and that's okay. Like I wish they would have cleared that up a little bit. And that's the thing again, like, and I guess it depends on the child. Like who are you showing this movie to in your family? Like is it, and do they have the ability to afterwards when the movie's over to sit down and talk to them about it? And I think that's always should be
Yeah,
a
that's the
healthy
key.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Because you do that a lot where whenever you take the kids to the movies or you should sit down and watch a movie,
Right.
it's not just like you do the movie and then it's over. Like you watch the movie and then there's a moment to kind of say, so what did you think about this? Or what was your best part about the movie? And kind of trying to, and through that opportunity, talk about maybe some of those points that maybe, well, I noticed in this movie this happened.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's because I'm a counselor. So like,
Right,
So
right.
my kids know, and my wife knows that there's like a mandatory processing time after.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because my kids do have different, not unfortunately, this isn't unfortunate.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that my kids have different opinions about
Yes,
the movies
yes.
than what I do. But unfortunately, because I'm such a critical thinker and I want to talk about it and break it apart.
'Cause it's not just a movie.
Because it's not just a movie. There's a message that's being
Yes,
communicated in
yes.
it. And I think so. I guess my argument here is that when we're talking about something like How to Train Your Dragon, where even though the dragons become
The archetypes or the symbols.
the archetypes are kind of confused a little bit in that they kind of fall into being good. The overall narrative is still pretty clear about
Yeah.
who the good guys are and who the bad guys are.
And that's really,
That
I
is
think
still
really
very
holds, yeah.
that is still very clear. So even like the third one, for example, where as we've talked about anti-heroes, we've also got into this thing where we almost have these heroic villains, or we feel like we need these backstories and all these villains so we can have some empathy and understanding like
Right.
why they became bad. Something like Maleficent, for example,
Right,
which I didn't
right.
let my kids watch
Yeah.
because I felt like that was confusing even for me. Like she's pretty bad in Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
I don't care what happened in her life.
Yeah, it
she still
doesn't
doesn't excuse the fact that she wants
Right.
to kill this 16-year-old girl.
Right.
Anyways, so bringing it back to How to Train Your Dragon, one of the things I did appreciate is that the third one, the villain is pretty straightforward. There's no
Yeah.
backstory. There's no real empathy for him. He's just a guy who wants to hunt and
Yeah.
kill dragons.
Yeah.
And Hiccup is the good guy that wants to stop him.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm right with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, as much as I loved learning about Thanos and
Right.
his backstory or whatever it was,
Right.
like
It doesn't
I don't need
justify
that.
him
I don't-
snapping his finger.
No, exactly. And I don't need that every time
Right.
either. I just sometimes I just need a bad guy just to be
He's
the bad
bad.
guy.
He's the bad guy.
He's the bad guy. Why?
Yeah.
Because he's the one that wants to kill people.
Right. I mean,
Okay.
when you're tugging on the emotions by showing the backstory, I mean, it should help us understand where they're coming from. And just like for anybody, we all come from hurt people.
Right.
And just because a person who is hurt is acting bad, that doesn't excuse what they're doing. But what it does do is it makes us to, I think, be more sympathetic and to sympathize with them. But it doesn't erase and change that what they did, the bad thing that they did, is okay.
Right. So what do you think then would be points of conversation? So you said the right thing, which is that unfortunately we needed to be able to talk to our kids. And sometimes it isn't clear cut. When you see the bad guy on screen, you don't know if he's bad anymore or if the
Yeah.
good guy is good anymore.
Right.
There is kind of this blurring of the lines between who's good and who's not.
Right.
How then do we help our kids be able to make those distinctions?
Well, I think part of it goes back to what we're talking about, the blurring of the line between what is good and what is evil, what is right and what is wrong. And then when you see someone who is then upholding the good and fighting for what is true and love, that's your hero. And then the person who is compromising that on any level, on any side, that person is no longer being the hero. That person is cooperating with the enemy in a way. So I think, and so there's got to be that kind of maybe that distinction that can be brought up through the understanding of what is good, what is virtuous. So look at the virtues, look at what is true, what is good, what is beautiful, what is loving, and then when you do that, that helps to identify those who fight for that. Those are your heroes. Those are your soldiers, your knights in shining armor, your kings, your queens, your princesses. They uphold those virtues. They fight for those, and they're not going to compromise on that. People who walk away from that, people who go against that, people who turn away. And I think that, and so having those conversations of like, what is good and what is bad. I think that kind of helps maybe expand the picture, or maybe paint the picture better of like what does the hero look like and what does the villain look like.
I think that's a great point. The other thing I would add to that is having explained to the kids that the ends don't always justify the means.
Oh, that's another one. Oh my
That's a
goodness,
big
yeah.
one.
That's
Unfortunately,
in
it's
so
a
many
big
movies
one,
and
yeah.
TV shows, even for adults. Huge.
Even for adults. I'm a Harry Potter fan. I'll put that out there as well. And, well, I was more. I love the books. I've read them all 3 times. The movies are okay. I stopped once these prequels that have come out.
Fantastic Beasts.
I really had a hard time with the first one, so I haven't seen the second one.
Okay.
Because it's really dark. There's a couple scenes in it that are just really, really dark.
Mm-hmm.
But why did I bring that up? Because Harry, even Harry Potter, he sneaks out at night. He lies to the teachers, and so
Yeah.
there's a place where he kind of does have a little bit of an ends justify the means mentality.
Yes.
That I think the biggest thing is just being able to talk to your kids, explaining to
Yes.
them. It's a teachable moment that even though Harry is the hero, and at the end very clearly does all the things you spoke about that a hero does, why he's still kind of a work in progress.
Yeah.
And being able to talk to your kids when you watch a movie or see something like this,
Yeah.
that even the heroes have some flaws to them.
That's right.
And you have to be able to explain that to your children,
But
that it's
that-
still not permissible just because of the hero.
That's the thing, that the ends do not justify the means, and so that plays out in so many movies and so many storylines. And that's what I feel like I see so much in movies these days. In TV shows, they push that envelope and they try to make you see that like, well, they had to do it. Like, no, they didn't.
So
Like,
what did you say to your boy after you watched Venom and he ate the guy's head?
I said, never, ever do that. That is bad.
That's bad.
That's-
Eating somebody's head is bad.
That is clearly bad.
That's word of wisdom from Faith and Marriage, right?
Exactly right. Oh, I'm never going to live that one down. I should tell you that one. But no, it was that's the other thing too, is that I was noticing this the other day. I walked into a store and I wanted to buy something, and immediately there was this kind of conversation that was going on. Anyway, the I don't want to get into details about it, but the point that I needed to remember was, I can't take for granted just walking into a store and not be ready to, in some way, lovingly, gently upholding a defense of the faith in some way. And the same is true in movies. We can't just like blindside and say, hey, it looks like it's a good title. It looks like it's going to be a good movie. We really need to kind of filter out and screen these things and discern whether or not it's the right one or it's not. And if it is, then great. If not, maybe there's a way that you can kind of edit it down, maybe through fast forwarding, or maybe just like, you know what, there's a lot of other good movies and I don't have to watch everything. We don't have to see everything. And sometimes like we'll listen to the radio, and my kids are good about this now. They'll hear something like, oh, that's an inappropriate song. Like, okay, and then it used to be they were mad because they couldn't listen to it, they couldn't hear it. And now they're like, well, there's other songs available. Like there's not that's not the only song that's out there. That's not the only fun song to listen to, or even just because everybody else is doing it, that doesn't make it right. And we've got to be able to hold that standard and not compromise.
Yeah.
And really see that there's, again, just because it's got a good beat, just because it looks good, just because it's got great animation or whatever it is, there's things that we need to be able to say, you know what, it's not worth it. And you know what, let's look at something else, let's listen to something else. We don't have to watch this.
Right. Yeah. And so coaching your kids and each other, to do that. Because there are some movies where, off the table. Yeah. There's some movies that are on the table, and there certainly are a whole host of movies that are within kind of a gray area that families need to make decisions for themselves as to
and they
what
can
is
become, like
appropriate.
you're saying, teachable moments where
moments.
You can say, look,
Absolutely.
this is why, I don't like this part, but this is what I do like about it, and then helping them to kind of follow that logic through.
Amen. So we had a little short Facebook Live. Thank you for listening and watching this. If you're watching this after the fact, please leave comments below.
Yeah.
What do you
questions?
think? Or questions. What do you think about the whole anti-hero thing or the heroic villain thing that's happening in movies today? Please leave some comments below. And also, I want to invite you to listen to my podcast, Always Hope, with Dr. Mario. This week, I had an episode that came out where I interviewed Dr. Greg Bottaro on Catholic mindfulness, which has nothing to do with what we just talked about, but it's a great episode nonetheless. So I encourage you to listen to it.
And I also want to plug in this in March. We've got 2 retreats coming up, March 16th and 17th. We have a couple of spots available, and then we also have a retreat March 30th and 31st. So we ask you, please pray for our retreats. It's an amazing ministry. It's a beautiful thing to be a part of, and we'd love to have you with us if you can join those weekends, again, the 16th and 17th and 30th and 31st. And you can go on our website at faithandmarriage.org to find out all the information about about dates and events, and also a lot of stuff that Dr. Mario's doing as well with his podcast and At the Heart with on YouTube and all that. So thanks so much for watching. Again, leave any comments, questions, or feedback below, please.
Final question.
Final question.
You gonna watch How to Train Your Dragon now?
I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. Thinking about it.
Watch How to Train Your Dragon 3. Bye, guys.